but passion, as intoxicating as it was, carried a weight. Claire pulled back slightly, her forehead resting against his chest. "Ethan, I'm scared," she whispered. "I don't want this to end badly. I don't want to hurt you, or myself." He held her tighter, feeling the warmth of her body against his. "Then we don't think about that. We just feel this. Together. Whatever happens, we face it together." Days turned into weeks, and the small town began to notice. Whispered questions, curious glances, but nothing could shake the bond they had forged in stolen moments and shared truths. With each passing day, the trust between them grew, a fragile, beautiful thing built on honesty, patience, and undeniable attraction. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, Ethan and Claire stood on the edge of Willow Creek's riverbank. The water shimmered with reflections of the fading light, mirroring the depth of emotion in their eyes. "I've never been this sure about anything in my life," Ethan said, taking both of her hands in his. You've changed everything, and I don't want to imagine a life without you." Claire smiled, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. "I was waiting for you, Ethan, and now I know I'm not letting go." And in that moment, the world fell away completely. The doubts, the age, the fear, all of it vanished. There was only them, standing on the riverbank, hearts beating as one, bound together by a love that had appeared suddenly, fiercely, and unexpectedly. Ethan kissed her again, a promise in every touch, a vow that this was only the beginning. And for the first time in his life, he knew that saying hello had changed everything, because she had looked at him like he was already hers, and now he couldn't imagine ever being anything else. The rain stopped, the sky cleared, and in the quiet of Willow Creek, a love that defied reason and expectation began its true story. The next few weeks felt like living in a dream Ethan couldn't wake from. Every encounter with Claire carried an intensity that made his heart race, a pull he couldn't explain, and yet a part of him feared the consequences. Their conversations deepened, late-night walks turned into stolen coffee dates, and every shared glance seemed to strip away the layers of caution he had spent years building around himself. One rainy evening, they found themselves under the awning of a small bookstore, waiting out the downpour. Claire shivered slightly in the cool mist, and without thinking, Ethan wrapped his coat around her shoulders. The gesture was simple, protective, and intimate all at once. She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the streetlights like liquid gold, and in that moment, the world outside, judgment, age, expectation, disappeared. "I've never felt anything like this before," Ethan admitted, his voice low, trembling slightly with emotion. "It's like I've been waiting for you without knowing it." Claire's hand found his, squeezing it lightly. "I feel the same way, but I also know people will talk. They'll question us. You me us." Her voice faltered, and for the first time, Ethan saw the vulnerability she usually kept hidden behind her confident gaze. He cupped her face gently in his hands, brushing wet strands of hair from her forehead. "I don't care what anyone says. Not now, not ever. I just know that I can't let you go." Her lips parted slightly, a silent invitation, and he leaned in. Their kiss was tentative at first, soft, exploratory, a testing of boundaries. Then it deepened, fueled by the intensity of weeks of suppressed emotion, desire, and longing. The rain fell harder, a curtain around them, making the world outside fade to nothing. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to feel completely alive. And Claire, with her fearless heart and unwavering certainty, made him feel seen in ways he never thought possible. And despite the world telling him he shouldn't, despite the caution that normally ran through his mind like clockwork, he wanted nothing more than to stay. They talked for hours, about books, about small-town life, about the things that scared them, the dreams they didn't tell anyone. Ethan learned how fiercely passionate Claire was, how deeply she felt everything, how unafraid she was to speak her mind even when it made him nervous. And Claire learned about the quiet steadiness in him, about the life he had built from scratch, and about the loneliness that had grown in the cracks of his carefully ordered world. But as the sky darkened and the cafe lights flickered on, a tension crept in, unspoken. Ethan was aware of the world outside the bubble of their conversation. The whispering questions of judgment, the impossible age gap, the caution that told him she might be too young for him. "You're thinking about it," Claire said suddenly, her gaze sharp but gentle. "I can see it." He nodded slowly. "I can't stop," he admitted. "I'm not sure I should feel this way." "I mean, you're 24, she finished for him, and instead of offense, there was a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Yes, and you're older." And Ethan swallowed. He wanted to say so many things, the impossibility, the prudence, the responsibility, but instead he just looked at her. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Claire leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice to a whisper that felt like it wrapped around him. "I don't care about any of that. I care about this," she said, touching her hand lightly to his across the table. "And you feel it too. Don't lie." He didn't lie. He couldn't. Every cell in him agreed with her. Every heartbeat echoed the truth he'd been trying to suppress. He was already falling, and maybe he had been the moment he saw her in the library. But just as his heart opened, a shadow flickered across her face, a hesitation he couldn't read. Ethan couldn't shake the way Claire had looked at him, the way her gaze had lingered as though she already owned a piece of his soul. For the next few days, he found himself thinking about her constantly, replaying that fleeting moment in the library over and over. Every time he tried to focus on work, a smile would creep onto his face unbidden, and every time he tried to convince himself it was just an infatuation, the memory of her voice whispered back, telling him it was more. It was impossible not to notice the age difference. Claire, vibrant and youthful at 24, seemed to carry a lightness and freedom that made his own 38 years feel heavy and measured. Yet, that very contrast only made the connection feel electric, like two poles pulling together against all logic. He hadn't seen her again until Thursday evening. He'd gone to Willow Creek's small cafe to grab a coffee, hoping maybe the universe would grant him another chance. And there she was, sitting alone at a corner table, sunlight spilling across her hair, her fingers wrapped around a steaming mug, lost in thought. Claire looked up and caught his eye the moment he entered. Her smile was the same one from the library, warm, certain, and knowing. It made his chest tighten in a way he hadn't felt in years. "Hi," he said, trying to sound casual as he approached her table. "You found me," she said, her voice soft but teasing. "I was wondering how long it would take." Ethan chuckled nervously and sat down across from her. The air between them seemed charged, almost tangible, like they existed in a world apart from the rest of the cafe. "I didn't know if you'd want to see me again," he admitted, unsure why his own words sounded hesitant. Claire tilted her head, studying him as if reading a book. "I did," she said simply. "I wanted you to come." Her words hit him harder than he expected. There was no flirtation, no games, just this raw, undeniable certainty that she wanted him here. He laughed before he could stop himself, confused but strangely drawn in. "I didn't know I was supposed to." "You were," she said, almost whispering. Something in her tone made his chest tighten, not in fear, but in recognition, as if fate had nudged them into the same room and was now sitting back, waiting to see what they would do. Trying to regain his balance, he glanced at the book in her hands. "History section," he said. "That's serious reading." She shrugged lightly. "I like serious things." Then her gaze drifted over him, slow, deliberate, assessing in a way that made him swallow hard. "And complicated things." Ethan wasn't sure if she meant him, but something in her eyes made him feel like she did. He stepped back a little, not wanting to give the wrong impression, or maybe wanting too much to give the right one. "Well, I didn't mean to interrupt. You didn't. She took a small step closer. Not enough to touch him, but enough that he could smell the faint scent of warm vanilla on her skin. But now that you're here, you should stay. Everything in his life had been predictable for years, structured, safe, quiet. But Claire's presence felt like standing at the edge of something he wasn't ready for and yet couldn't turn away from. He looked at her, this young woman who shouldn't have known him, shouldn't have looked at him with such certainty. "Why do I feel," he asked quietly, "like you've been waiting for me?" Claire's expression softened, but her voice held something deeper, something he didn't understand yet. "Because I have," she said, "and you're not going to walk away now. Not from this." Ethan felt the pull, not gentle, not hesitant, but powerful and immediate. He didn't know what this was yet, but he knew it had already begun, and it was far too late to pretend otherwise. The first time Ethan saw her, he wasn't even supposed to be there. He had walked into Willow Creek's small-town library only to drop off a box of old books his sister didn't want anymore. It was supposed to take 2 minutes. No attention, no distraction. But the moment he stepped inside, he felt something shift, like the air had thickened, like time had skipped a beat. She was standing by the history shelves, her back turned slightly, her long brown hair falling over one shoulder. She wasn't doing anything extraordinary, just reading a book, but there was something about her stillness, her quiet presence, that pulled him in before he even understood why. He didn't even realize he was staring until she lifted her head. Her eyes, calm, knowing, warm in a way that startled him, met his. And just like that, she smiled. Not a polite smile, not a bookstore smile. A slow, certain smile, the kind that said, "I've been waiting for you," even though he had never seen her before in his life. Ethan almost forgot how to speak. He wasn't the nervous type. At 38, with a stable job, a divorce behind him, and a life he kept intentionally simple, he didn't get flustered by strangers. But this young woman, no more than 24, looked at him like she already knew him deeply, like she recognized something he didn't even know about himself. He told himself to just walk away, drop the books, leave, and pretend nothing happened. But his feet carried him toward her as if someone else was making the decision for him. "Hi," he managed. "I just wanted to say." Before he could finish, she closed her book gently and turned fully toward him. "I'm Claire," she said softly, as if greeting someone she'd known for years. "And you're late." Ethan blinked. "Late? For saying hello?" Her smile widened, playful now, but her eyes stayed locked on his in a way that made him forget the space around them. "I thought you'd never walk over."